You're watching Mainebiz Sunday, Maine's business news source.
Did you know that the United States' third largest trade deficit after oil and automobiles is seafood? Even with our vast coastlines and maritime heritage, fully 80% of the seafood consumed in this country is imported, and roughly 40% of that imported seafood is raised on farms, mostly in China. Aquaculture, or fish farming, is a relatively small industry in Maine, with a roughly $130 million annual economic impact. But globally, it's a growing business. Last year marked the first year that 50% of all the seafood consumed globally came from aquaculture. Whit Richardson, a freelance journalist and former Mainebiz editor, has been covering the aquaculture industry in Maine and abroad. Whit's two-part series, Fishing for a Future, appears in the January 25th and February 8th issues of Mainebiz. Welcome, Whit. Glad you could be here.
Thanks, Alan.
Great. So you've had an interesting past few months. You had a fellowship, and you were able to travel, doing some covering of this topic, not only in Maine but abroad. So tell us about the fellowship. What was that like, and what happened?
Sure. I received a fellowship from the International Center for Journalists, which is a Washington, D.C. based organization, to cover the global aquaculture industry, and specifically its evolution and move offshore. And the fellowship that I received is designed for for journalists from small and mid-sized organizations that don't have budget to send journalists abroad or freelancers. So the issue has to have local significance. So in this case, I traveled to Panama and Mexico to report on offshore aquaculture operations that are using Maine-made technology to push the envelope in this new industry.
So, out of all the topics that you could choose, why did you choose this one?
I happen to know about Ocean Farm Technologies. This is the company in Searsmont that is manufacturing these offshore fish farm cages. I happen to know about them just from past coverage in Mainebiz, and I knew about the fellowship, and I knew that it had to be an international topic with local significance, and
it was a good connection.
It just happened that the timing was on. About the same time I was looking at this fellowship, I got a press release from Steve Page, the president there, saying, "Hey, we just sold some new cages in South Korea and Mexico."
And we had Steve on the program last year, the MTI grant recipient, so really interested in that technology.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with the Maine side of this equation first.
Sure.
What's the status of aquaculture in Maine? It's growing, not growing?
No, it is growing. It's had a rocky past, but there is growth there. It's a multi-sectored industry. I mean, there's a lot of times when we talk about aquaculture in Maine, people think of salmon farms down east.
Right.
And that is a big chunk of it. But the state also has plenty of shellfish farms, oysters and mussels. There's even some inland farms, onshore farms. The biggest, as far as growth goes right now, is in shellfish. According to the Maine Aquaculture Association, shellfish farms are growing by about 8-10% annually in terms of acreage.
In Maine? Okay.
Has between 8 and 100 million farm gate sales every year. There's some new sectors. I visited a fish farm in Sorrento recently. It's the first cod farm in the country.
Really?
And they're doing very well. It started out as an experiment 18 months ago, and they've been very successful and are expanding.
Tell me about the kind of the offshore versus onshore issue, and it's interesting. That topic is we have that topic on a lot of business climates, business issues around here. Wind, offshore and onshore wind, and now we have offshore and onshore fish farming as well. So what are the issues there?
So the conventional fish farms, again, when people think about fish farming in Maine, they think of the salmon farms. They think of surface net pens that are usually near shore, more protected areas where the elements aren't as rough. And where they're easily accessible from shore. But there's been issues with that. There's been clashes with other stakeholders, whether it's recreational use, coastal landowners, commercial fishing. And there's just a limited amount of space, along the coast of Maine in these harbors and coves and everything. So, like the wind industry, this industry is looking at where is there space for expansion, and the Gulf of Maine, the open ocean, is seen as a...
Is onshore just too prohibitive in terms of the cost, the actual cost of starting fish farms onshore and the tanks and all of that would be involved?
Oh, you say onshore? Do you mean offshore, or do you just mean near shore?
I mean actually onshore, because that's one of the issues that people who are critics of the offshore say, no, you can manage it better there. You don't have to worry about escape of the fish and environmental issues.
Yeah. Some of the harshest critics of marine aquaculture, believe that we shouldn't be in the oceans, and that much more sustainable methods to do it onshore. Now it comes down to a bit of a he said she said kind of situation. Some people say that the onshore is too or too energy intensive,
right?
But you talk to people who are for that, and they say that technology is getting to a point where that's not true.
I want to move to I want to get some discussion about your trip to Panama and Mexico. First of all, I'm jealous you got to go there. But second of all, tell us about that. What's the aquaculture scene there, and what's going on, and what's the main connection to that?
I first was able to visit Panama and a company, Open Blue Sea Farms. It's actually run by a guy from New York, Brian O'Hanlon, and he is using offshore fish cages manufactured by Searsmont-based Ocean Farm Technologies, and also a company in Washington. And he is farming cobia, which is a whitefish similar to halibut, 9 miles off the coast.
Really?
In the Caribbean, on the north coast of Panama. So you can't even, you see these farms from the shore there over the horizon. And even when you're, I took a boat out to see these farms, and you can't even see them until you're on top of them because they're submerged.
Right. Okay.
The reason he's in Panama is because he needed a place that was open to this kind of operation. It's very
he decided not to do it in the U.S.
He decided not to do it in the U.S.
Because of the regulatory issues, the environmental issues,
a number of issues.
All those folks.
I mean, until 3 miles off the shore, it's state waters. Once you get beyond 3 miles, it's federal waters. Right now in the United States, there's no regulatory framework set up to permit a fish farm in federal waters, which is a big hurdle.
But they're being successful there.
In Panama.
In Panama?
It's very young. It's very, very young. I mean, he's not profitable by any means yet. He estimates he will be by the end of 2011 in Panama. Mexico's also very young, and they're farming shrimp there. Okay, good. We're going to have to wrap there and leave it there, but I know that folks are going to want to read more about this, and you've covered it in depth in 2 articles that are going to be in Mainebiz, so great, and we're going to read them and follow up on it and see how it evolves here in Maine. Great. Thanks, Alan.
Whit's articles on the growing global aquaculture business will be in the January 25th and February 8th issues of Mainebiz. Or you can read them online at mainebiz.biz. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Mainebiz Sunday is made possible in part by funding provided by the Finance Authority of Maine.